I'm Bev Cluth.
And I'm Elaine Jamerson.
We're doing a little presentation here on putting your garden to sleep for the winter, and we're right now at in my garden in Upper Kittitas County. We're Zone 4B, and it's like October 18th, I think, or 19th, and we haven't had a frost yet here. So we'll start this video out where Elaine and I will just kind of walk through my garden and talk about the bedding down, and then we'll go through the video. We'll have Elaine with some video of her garden in Kittitas, and then we'll end it with like some pre-shot video of my vegetable garden, and then we'll have the tail end. We'll put up the link to the Master Gardener calendar, which is a great resource for all months of the year. It's online, and that's kind of what I follow, along with Elaine's advice on taking care of my garden. Anything else to add?
Bad advice.
No, great advice. Before we start our video presentation, just want to call attention to the Master Gardeners of Kittitas County Garden Calendar. There's the link to it. It really is a time-honored month-by-month gardening calendar for Kittitas County, and it has a month's gardening activities arranged by planning and maintenance, pest monitoring and management, lawn, woody landscape plants and fruit trees, flowers, vegetables, and small fruit. I highly recommend looking into it.
This is Elaine Jamerson. I am in Lower Kittitas County, east of Ellensburg, and I'm in Zone 5. This is how I'm putting my garden to bed for the winter. This bed was green beans, and I've planted crimson clover in it to overwinter, and in the spring I'll till this into the soil lightly before I'm ready to plant, about 3 weeks before I'm ready to plant. In preparing this bed for the winter, I planted cover crop of buckwheat and hairy vetch. After letting it grow to about 3 feet tall, I cut it and left it on the surface of the soil for the winter. And then in the spring, I'll till this in a few weeks before I'm ready to plant, and it'll just add that organic matter and nutrients into the soil. In this bed, I did have some squash and pumpkins growing. I've taken those out now, and I've put composted chicken manure and some bedding from the chicken house in this bed, and we'll just leave that on over the winter, and then in the spring I can turn that into the soil before I'm ready to plant. In this bed I have kale and some herbs still growing and some walking onions. And I've also planted some cover crop in here. I'll keep harvesting out of this until the kale is done producing, and then I'll pull that out. And the crimson clover that I have planted in here will just continue to grow until it's dormant in the winter. Then in the spring, I'll terminate. In this bed, I have a tree collard growing that I'm going to try to winter over, and I'll take starts off of it in the spring if I'm successful. I also have a fall crop of arugula and some spinach growing in here that we're still harvesting from. After this bed is finished for the season, I'll put some compost in it and leave the compost on the surface for the winter. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to winter over this tree collard. It's an experiment for me. They're only supposed to be good down to 20 degrees, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be successful with it, but I'm going to give it a try anyway.
Hi, it is October 15th. I'm in Upper Kittitas County Growing Zone 4B. I am getting ready to dig out the rest of my potatoes and get this bed starting to get ready to go to sleep for the winter. You can see I've only planted half of this bed with potatoes. The other half was zinnias. So I need to pull out the remaining potatoes on this half, the marigold and the nasturtiums, and I'm going to leave the zinnias there. Voila, here is the potato bed with the nasturtiums and the marigolds removed, and I pulled out the rest of the potatoes and kind of stirred around that half of this particular bed. The zinnias are going to remain in there until the frost, which hasn't happened yet, and they start dying down. Then I'll complete the putting to bed of this entire bed. Here is my broccoli bed, or what was my broccoli bed. The broccoli bolted and it started tasting kind of nasty. And again, you kind of want to base when you pull stuff out on the weather and when the frost comes. At any rate, I took everything out. I bedded it all down with a layer of compost and then a layer of grass clippings on top of it. One note about all brassica type plants is they recommend that you do not put the roots of the plant in your compost because it increases your risk of the clubroot pathogen. So just because I err on the side of caution, I take every part of my brassica plants, be it Brussels sprouts, broccoli, or cabbage, and I don't put them in the compost bin. I actually put them in the burn pile. Moving along through the garden, still October 16th, and here is the asparagus. It's going great guns, looking pretty hairy. It has not frosted here. It's been warm. I'm going to just go ahead and let this asparagus be as it wants to be until it gets colder and it starts dying off. Then I'll remove the tops and I'll put this bed to bed by putting compost and grass clippings on top of it. So this bed was my beets and carrots bed, which are done. I've harvested them. So what I've done here is I've cleaned it all out, and where you see the grass clipping and the white tags, I have planted my fall garlic in that section. The rest of the bed is just basically all cleaned out of detritus, and I covered it with a nice layer of compost, which I will put pine needles on eventually. One short note on the irrigation hose you will still see left on all my beds after they're cleaned out. We just leave them there because my husband takes the air compressor and blows out all the water, making sure that they don't freeze during the winter. So that lets us have that piping already on each bed, ready to go in the spring. It still hasn't frosted here in Upper Kittitas County, at least in my yard, and it's supposed to frost 2 days from now. So I have a light dressing of mulchy pine needles on all the ornamentals. Yeah, this is marjoram. Okay, so I just did a light bed down on it. And Elaine, do you think really these herbs don't need a whole lot of bedding? I mean, this has been out here for years. Actually, before we built the house, we moved it from over there, and it's lived perfectly. Wow. So yeah, so I think it's doing okay there. Ornamentals, we've got lupin and columbine, and I've got a fuchsia over here and a hosta. And like we were talking about before, it's lightly dressed, but I'll back up a little bit. When the frost comes, I'm going to add more mulch. And I'm actually going to put burlap down because that whole line of plants is right up underneath where the snow slides off the roof and just smashes right down in that area. And I think the burlap definitely helped last year. The fuchsia actually came back, so I'm happy about that. Oh, and one thing we wanted to mention was the issue that they recommend that you don't bed your plants until after a hard frost. Right? But that's not always so easy for everybody's schedule to plan when they have time to bed stuff. So you can see I'm early on some of the mulching that I have here. But after the frost next week, I'm going to go around, probably cut some of the dead greenery stuff off and maybe put some more grass clippings and pine needles around stuff.
Pine needles are good.
Yeah, and I can have a whole pile of them. Here is the rose, and looking at the Kittitas County Master Gardeners calendar, they had a lovely tip in there, which we'll provide a link to in this video too. They had a lovely tip about roses. It said not to cut the blooms off so that it helps it go dormant. It leaves,
Yep.
doesn't put.
It'll get hips.
Yeah.
If it's a rose that gets hips, leaving the last blooms on will provide you with hips.
Okay.
And it helps it to go dormant, and you don't want to cut them back until late
Spring.
winter, early spring.
And over here there is a close-up of the fireweed that Nola gave me. And see, it is Nola, we all know Nola. It's seeded, and I just kind of let it go, and I'm not going to even mulch it. It's a native, and just let nature take its course. And here I have some Agastache. Oh, interesting thing to show you. I have had a serious vole problem in this area of my garden. They took all kinds of stuff. Beautiful Agastache I had. So Jeff, my lawn man, dug this all out, and he put in a cage, an underground cage all around it. And then I got some more Agastache. And the voles love to eat this. This tiny little Japanese maple, he's bedded down, and then we have a vole cage around him too that we buried.
Yeah, nice.
So, because it was a gift from a friend, and where is it? Where is he? Somewhere around here. There he is.
Yeah.
Gift from a friend,
Nice.
and we just didn't want it to get vole attack. This is a yucca plant, and I might put more bedding on it. It's going into its second winter, so it survived one winter. If you see anything that looks like it could use a little assistance, just shout it out.
Do you mulch around your iris?
That again, I planted those in the spring. I probably should. I think I've got a whole bunch more pine needles, and I will add more. Yeah. I usually make another run to see what's exposed.
Yep.
The peonies do really well out here too. Really easy. So again, I just put pine needles. What are your thoughts on taking all the foliage down? I've been just leaving it.
I would leave it. It's so pretty right now.
It is.
This
you're
time
right.
of year, it gets really pretty foliage. So
Yeah.
I say leave it.
The colors are nice. Yeah. Now all these hardy fuchsias I got off of, I had 2 plants the year before last, and I got cuttings from them, and these are all the cuttings. This is the first year for these in this spot. I think the ones that were over, the 2 older plants did well because they had wood. They got mature enough to have wood, and a lot of these have wood too, so I'm hoping they'll winter okay. Again, after it frosts, with these 2, I think I'll put burlap on them, just because I want them to live so badly.
Yeah, they're really pretty.
They are.
They look nice.
So here's a coreopsis, and you can see that, get my finger out of the way, that they just chewed that right off. And so I sprayed in the hole, and and there's still a little bit left alive. And there's some new growth, so I'm hoping it'll be okay. We'll see. I've had them do this kind of thing before, and it's actually come back. So here is my second crop of beets. I was trying to follow Elaine's advice, and some of them didn't come up, but I'll keep trying. And then I've got my leftover kale here, and Jeff and I we have a row cover. We're going to put that over the top. Oh, and there's my green beans I forgot to pick up.
Oh, I did that the other
Doggone
day
it.
at my house with some things.
And you can see I got lots of marigolds. After I saw Hilda's presentation, I just kind of went nuts with them. But they sure are pretty.
They are. Yeah.
And now,
And they
in
just
particular,
keep blooming and blooming and blooming.
Here is the remaining Brussels sprouts. I actually have 4 of them, and they probably, if you look at them, I probably planted them too close together. Maybe
That's how mine ended up.
they just get really
Mine
big.
were, I think it said to plant them 30 inches apart
Yeah.
or something, and I didn't have that much room,
Yeah,
so
me
mine were
either.
closer together.
Me either. So, did you get some Brussels
No,
sprouts?
mine just got terrible looking, and I pulled them out. I wasn't patient. I didn't want to deal with them, so I yanked them.
Well,
before
I may
they really got anything.
I may do that with these. Interesting
Did you get any?
thing. Yeah, the little dies are coming on
yeah.
the small one. Yeah, on the smallest one to the tallest one, looks, this one looks like I might get
Oh,
some there too.
Yeah,
But we'll
and
see.
massive aphids.
Oh God, yeah, look at that. Aphid town. Okay, I guess I better do something about that. Look at that. Yeah,
And they
that's
just
new.
show up so
That
fast.
is new. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
Okay.
nice.
Yeah. But look, this one's like, it's just, this stuff is just leaves.
Oh, yeah.
They never formed the little balls on this tall
I
one.
wonder if it was because they're planted close together and it didn't
Could
have
be.
enough nutrients to take care of all of them. But it
That
grew
is
tall,
probably a really good hypothesis. I'll bet you're right.
but it grew really tall.
It did. Isn't that peculiar? But you know what else? The sun comes from that side, so maybe that's why those two on that side actually are forming. Now this guy looks really immature.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
It might be the sun,
If that's
huh?
your sun.
Yep, that's the south.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll wait. I'll wait till after the frost to see what happens. But before then, I'll probably pull out these immature ones, just to minimize the amount of work that I have to do in the wet, nasty. Okay, so here is my onion bed, and traditionally they say, I guess, you're not supposed to take them out till the tops turn brown, but it's kind of getting on,
Yep.
and they're pretty well formed, so I should probably take them out. Huh?
I don't think
What do
it
you
would
think?
hurt. They're starting to go to seed. They're coming up out of the ground.
Okay, it's time to take them out.
I think you could probably
Okay.
take them out, lay them out where they'll lay out and dry a little
Okay.
bit.
Yeah.
Don't cut the tops off
Okay,
right away.
all right. I don't want to hang them. I can just lay them down. Like I could lay them on the rack.
On a
somewhere.
rack or something. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll do that in my plant room.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so here's our remaining tomato box, and look at how big these things got. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3 plants, 4 plants, and so next year we're just going to do 3 in a box, and I will not plant in peppers by them. So they just really shaded out my poblano peppers, which is a shame because they were doing really well. I still need to bed these somewhat. These are ocean spray that I bought from Keene. One has got a really bad rust going on now, doesn't it? You know what? I'm going to research that, see if I can do something about it.
Oh,
And I'll add that onto the end of a video if I find information on how to handle this rust, because it looks like it's spread into this ground now. So I did some research and I found out there is a leaf spot that affects ocean spray plants. It is something that supposedly is caused by irrigating above, and I'm not sure how that happened with us because we do the drip irrigation and the hose irrigation below. But at any rate, it recommends on this screenshot, it recommends that you keep the area clear of debris and you remove the damaged leaves below it. So I'm going to do that. I did pull out the one that was most badly infected, and I'm just going to destroy it. And then next spring what I'll do is I will go ahead and spray with a copper fungicidal garden spray when the leaves appear, as hopefully as a preventative, and maybe we can keep it from happening next season. And hey, look, there's those chives. They're going to be all over my property too, which is a good thing. Okay, so it's time for us to say goodbye. Kind of an abrupt end to our video, but we covered what we thought was important and what we could with what we have in our gardens. So we really would recommend you going ahead and visiting the Master Gardeners gardening calendar. It's way more complete. It's got, again, planting and maintenance activities, pest monitoring and control, lawn care, woody landscape plants, flowers, vegetables, and small fruit. It's a wonderful, complete guide to gardening throughout every month of the year.